Hey, welcome to our next live interview inside the Firefighter Resilience private Facebook group here hosted by the IAFF. My name is Lisa Desley, and I'm really excited to have you join me here today. I've got a phenomenal guest. It sounds like many of you in this group actually know this individual, Alex Clark. So I'm really excited to be interviewing him. So thank you guys for joining me. I see Maureen, I see David, I see Sue, I see Lisa. Thank you guys for joining. Awesome. Hi, Alex. I sent you an invite to join me, Alex. So it should be sent over. Let me touch this here. And let's see. Add, here we go. All right. Yay, technology is working today. Those of you that have been present for the last couple lives. Oh, Alex, it said that you declined the live video invitation. Let me try that again. All right, Leanne, thanks for joining. We did have a little bit of technical difficulties last time. Hey, Alex.
Hey, I'm back.
Oh, good. Awesome. Awesome. Thanks for taking time out of your day today to chat with me. We've got a great group here. I know that you've been a part of this group since you and I had a conversation, but just to kind of set the tone for everyone, because we've had quite a few new members join since the last you and I connected. So originally this group started out as a firefighter nutrition group. So my name is Lisa Desley. I'm an expert in firefighter nutrition. This is what I specialize in. I also happen to be married to a firefighter, so that works out really well. And we started this group to host nutrition challenges. But as COVID-19 hit, we saw an opportunity to really expand this conversation to be about more than just food. So I've always subscribed to the idea that food just is the entry point for bigger things, you know, living a more intentional life, taking our health and well-being seriously. And so that's why I get to talk to you today. So thank you again for taking time out of your day to join us. I just want to give, if it's okay, Alex, just read your bio real quick so people understand why I'm so excited to talk to you.
Sure, that'd be fun.
All right, and then we'll dive into the question. So Alex Clark has 22 years of experience with the City of Springfield, Missouri Fire Department, and has been involved in the fire service since age 13 when he was a cadet with Riverside County Fire in California. So young, you already knew what you wanted to do. That's impressive. He's been the department's health and fitness coordinator for the past 10 years. He's a master peer fitness trainer instructor for the IAFF. Which has allowed him to teach firefighters around the country to be peer fitness trainers. Clark supervises all aspects of fitness within the agency, including daily workouts, recruit training, annual fitness screenings, and more. He is currently on the line as an operations battalion chief serving at Station 1 in Springfield's downtown area. So lots of life experience under your belt, which I'd love to dive into. So
Sure. Well, thank you, first of all, and welcome everyone, and glad to be here and an honor to be here. So I really appreciate it. And yeah, like I said, the fire service has been a big part of my life. Like I said, I started at a very young age and have been here. I'll retire hopefully younger, but it's just been part of my life. And like I said, I had that young influence as a young man that had a neighbor that was a Riverside firefighter. And so he kind of is the one that spurred my interest. And here I am. I guess it's been, you know, whatever, 28, 29 years later, and I still love the fire service and everything that it has to offer.
That's awesome. I would love to dive in a little bit more about that experience. So having started at such a young age, I imagine you also became full-time at a relatively young age. Is that correct?
I turned 19 and I started 2 weeks later.
Wow.
Full-time.
That's
So.
amazing. That's amazing. Yeah. I would love to hear your perspective on, you know, firefighter wellness, behavioral health, fitness, and now this conversation around nutrition is starting to become a more commonplace conversation, not just, you know, with individuals, but I think even around the dinner table at the firehouse. I would love to hear your perspective, how this has evolved through your career, and some changes that you've seen personally?
Yeah, I think there's been a full, at least within our agency, and I think that goes nationwide, just depending on where you're at and your pockets and your department size. But it's been great to see. I mean, for me personally, when I came on 22 years ago, I was a young man. I like to work out. I was physically active. I like to do those things, but that really wasn't the norm within the agency. The stations had a few pieces of workout equipment and stuff, and there was a few that would hit it. There was really no talk of nutrition or what you're doing. And so, now it's 180 degrees from that. And a lot of that has to do with, the push from the IAFF, from our administration, our city. So it's been a slow go, and it's not anything that we've done overnight. It's taken those 22 years to slowly, year by year, chip away at things, and and understanding that we've all got to be here for a long period of time, and so why not A, be the best that we can be at our job, but then B, enjoy our job for as long as we absolutely can, so hopefully in my position now, I get the opportunity to influence recruit training and train new people, train the trainers that are going out and conducting these programs. And, maybe they don't realize the value in the information that they're getting now. A lot of that's, with Dr. Dave Frost information is, boy, I wish I would have had some of this information 20 years ago when I started, and maybe my knees would feel a little bit better, or maybe I would have taken better care of this or that. And so now they're being front loaded with all this information, and that's a totally new, unique thing that they've got, and it's really to benefit the firefighter. Yes, the agency gets some benefit from that, but if you're healthier, more vibrant, feel better, then you're going to have a better day at work.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. There's a lot of nuggets in there that I want to dive into. And I want to talk about kind of how you're setting yourself up for success in retirement, because I think that is a priority, and that's a big motivation for myself, the work that I do, and the support that I offer firefighters, and in particular, my husband. But I'm curious to know when this conversation started, because we've seen in this group people have commented a few times. No one in our department works out, or I struggle to get my crew to buy in. What advice would you give for someone who prioritizes this and wants to initiate a little bit of this culture change, even if it's just within their own crew? How do they start that conversation?
I think you just have to, slide little nuggets in there that make a difference, and I think, I can go back to one of my original crews. I think there was one other person out of the four, that worked out and would kind of, cared about their type of health. But then, slowly but surely, if they see you working out every morning, every afternoon, they kind of, oh, okay, well, yeah, what's with this? And you can maybe show them something. That goes a lot farther than, trying to, recruit them into this really hard workout, or, and it's about finding their motivation. A lot of it is, personalities and stuff, trying to, if I'm going out there trying to recruit somebody that's maybe you're the young firefighter like I was years ago, and you've got the salty equipment operator that, doesn't really care. He just there, he checks his truck, he does his job great. He's a wealth of knowledge, he doesn't care a thing about working out. And it's like, but most of the time you dig deep enough into those guys, they were a ball player, they played football, they played baseball. Hey, how'd you stay in shape when you played football? Is this the way they taught you bench? And is this, like I said, how many miles did you used to run and stuff? And you kind of start to, build that relationship and that rapport with them, and get in that door that way. In very similar ways with nutrition. I think that's, if you try to, if you're really eating clean and whole foods, and, or you're a vegan or something, and you try to come in and railroad that meal in, as a whole meal, you're just going to get waylaid. That's just the way it is. But if you slowly, you make all the sides and the meats and stuff that they like, and then you slowly slip something in there, and a few of the guys try it, and like, yeah, this ain't so bad. And so it's just those little things. Don't try to do too much at one time. Build it more as not as we're forcing you to do this, but here's these resources, and these are why these resources are important. So your fitness information, your nutrition information, and those kinds of things. Anything with the programs that we've ever done here in Springfield is tried to really base it on what resources are available to our people, and some people take advantage of them and some don't, but or some people jump into it whole hog and just go crazy for it, and other people are like, yeah, okay, so I cook green beans instead of fried potatoes. That's a win.
You're exactly right.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. That's, I think that's great advice, because I think when we check ourselves a little bit, I like that phrase, check yourself before you wreck yourself. I'm a product of the 80s and 90s.
Mm-hmm.
That none of us like to be bossed and forced into doing things that maybe we haven't fully bought into yet, but kind of this slow drip of, I think about, you're just planting the seeds, and then you just see what interests people. So that's great advice. I would love to hear from you now. What is it that you're doing now, to prepare for a healthy retirement? Because, we hear all of the negative statistics about health declination in firefighters, especially within their first 5 years of retirement. How are you viewing that, and what are you doing to set yourself up for success?
It's tough because, like I said, busy family and job demands and everything else like that. But I think it's really taking those small steps, and whether it's fitness, and my schedule's crazy if I am on shift. Most of the time it's very busy, so it's a struggle to get that workout in, but it's, doing the little things. It's taking the stairs. It's still trying to get back in the afternoons, and I've got a great crew here. They try to work out every afternoon, and I try my best to get back and join them in that. And sometimes I'm late, but I still go out there and do it, and set the example, and try to get that in, or make a healthier meal, or say, like I said, the culture within the fire service is very unique. And I think anybody that's a firefighter, I know your husband there, and I know very similar things, and as I travel and teach, the culture does not change across the nation. It's pretty much the same. And I love going out and teaching, because I find the same people that are within my agency as I go out and
Mm,
teach in other departments. I'm like, hey, that's this guy, that's this girl, and they act the same. They have the same personalities, kind of the same things. So but for me personally, I think it's, like I said, I am younger, and so maybe it's been a little bit easier on that. But then, rising through the ranks and being a captain so long, I think, I just tried to maintain my health and stuff. I never wanted to be, I used the culture to never be the weak link in the crew,
mm.
whether that was nutrition or whether that was anything skill wise or anything like that. And so I think that's good leadership, is when you can, set the example. You're not always, I think you have to swallow your pride. You're not always going to be the fastest, the strongest, the most skilled at this technique, but everybody knows your effort and what you're putting into that. And I think that's the best thing that I can do, is to set that example, and try to leave the agency better than when I got it. So.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think that's great advice. I would love to dive into a little bit around, the current situation that many firefighters and their families are facing right now. Stress has changed, response has changed amid this global pandemic. But I would love to know, you personally, what impacts have you seen in your life? You said that you have a busy, active family, not just from your role as a battalion chief, but as a husband, as a man, as a father. How are things feeling for you right now? What's different?
I think, you know, I guess my life hasn't changed that much. My duties and my responsibilities, to my family really haven't changed that much. I still leave every third day and come on shift. I think the bigger thing for me personally was realizing that my wife's at home with our, actually my son's turning 8 today, so happy
Oh,
birthday,
happy
Holden.
birthday to him.
But I've Yeah, so I've got an 8-year-old and a 3-year-old, two boys that are rambunctious, and like I said, so she's been home now for several months, with them, taking care of them. So it's offering, relief from that and
Mm,
understanding that their lives have dramatically changed. My son was out of school, um, but mine hasn't. I still get to, go and do my work every third day. So understanding that they need some help, and getting the kids out and just taking a hike or, whatever, letting my wife have an afternoon and just take them to do whatever I'm doing, working or doing whatever I had planned. So that's kind of there, and I think just dealing with, I think out of all this, for a while there, it was so crazy to keep up with the changes, and especially at an admin level, the emails were just nonstop,
mm,
and conference calls and constant updates and changes in protocols and PPE and what we're doing here in response modes. Um, at a certain point, you had to check out every once in a while and just get some space. And those emails will pile up and you'll read them kind of later. You got to keep up, and I had to keep the crews and everybody up and going. But personally, I think that it weighed heavy for
hmm.
quite a while, for several weeks, maybe even a month there before things kind of, we established the new policies and things. So I think personally, I was experiencing that maybe at home a little more frustration, a little quicker temper, those kinds of things. And I think that's what's great about this group. I think that's great about behavioral health and Dr. Gulliver is talking about that stuff and realizing that now. And I think,
Mm.
my wife realizes that, much like you do with your husband. It's like, hey, the best thing for you would be to go take a nap right now and just unwind and come off of that. She's a bright woman, and she's told me several times as I pull down, we have kind of a longer driveway, and she said, when you come in the fence and you come down the driveway, she said, I want you to say out loud, off duty 3 times. And she said, just kind of check yourself. And she said, because everything's so regimented in your world. And she's like, this isn't that way. This is home. And so come off duty. And she'll recognize when I'm not doing that. And so that's a big help. And spouses at this time of year, or in this season, are hugely important.
I'm laughing because I feel like our families and our conversations parallel one another, and that idea of um, being able to recognize that the way you experience work and being a battalion chief and having your systems in place and expectations and um, even things as like on Thursdays, these are the chores that we do at the station. And then you come home, you're like, the ship isn't as tight as maybe it is at the station, and allowing for grace. So how have you navigated some of those conversations? Because maybe your home is like ours, that like we're trying to be productive in those conversations. We're trying to hold space for each other, but sometimes things just are a little fiery if we're being honest. So how do you navigate those conversations? Maybe other families are feeling a little bit of that same stress. Like, I just don't know how to talk about this.
Yeah, I think, you have to recognize if something is different. Like I said, this has caused stress and different things. And, what if I get exposed at work and then I come home and I can't stay with my family or whatever the case might have been? There was a lot of those initial stressors. I think those have kind of subsided. But I think a lot of it is just understanding that, you know, luckily I have with my wife a long history over 20 years. So she knows me. She knows me better than I know myself. She knows, like you were saying, to plan something for me on Saturday morning, because if not, I wake up and I start cleaning and organizing and rearranging closets because I'm programmed to clean on Saturdays. That's our heavy clean day. And so she knows to, like, push me out of the house, like, go do your thing, go down, whatever, just have a plan in place. But a lot of that is just, I think you can go at each other, or you can choose to say, just to stop and take inventory on, okay, much sleep have I had?
Mm-hmm.
How have I been eating? How have I gotten my exercise in? Because, for me, that's a big thing. I haven't been getting as much regular exercise in not because of the COVID or anything else. It's because I've got two little boys and they demand my attention and my time. So, but that makes me feel good as a person to get out and do those things. And so that affects my mood, because I
Mm-hmm.
do feel, kind of bad about myself because I know what I'm capable of doing, and maybe I'm not hitting my marks like I should be. So it's, hey, sneak something in here. Like I said, it's talking with her and just saying, a lot of times we have a tendency to, even with my boys, I think I've looked at them and said, like done something, like snapped at them or whatever, and it's like, is this really that big a deal? And my wife will even tell me that, is this really what you want to go to bat on? And I'm like, no. And I'll even tell them, it's like, hey guys, I was up most of the night, so if daddy's a little sharp today, and my 8-year-old gets it. I mean, he's like, okay, and even if and they'll be quieter if I have to go and take a nap or something in the middle of the day just because I need it. I got to get that in. So I think for some reason we want to keep it to ourselves, and it's like, tell your spouse that, hey, it was a crappy night,
Mm-hmm.
or well, actually we slept all night, but my day beat me up so bad because we were trying on new PPE, and it was just a mess, and training through this new drill or whatever the case might have been. So I think communication in that is just to tell them what's your status,
Yeah.
how good are you?
Yep. No,
And
I think that's
it makes a
great.
huge difference.
Really good
Yeah.
conversation, because people don't know, like we don't know what we don't know. And so we, as a spouse or as a supporter, or, in some situations, boyfriends, girlfriends, roommates, whatever, um, we start writing stories in our head. So,
Yep.
and oftentimes those aren't accurate, as I've learned of, 20 years of this. And so being able to, no, or trusting that, my partner is going to communicate with me, like, I just need a quick level set. Where are you at? I slept all night. Okay. No, I had 9 calls after midnight. Okay. And my kids are like yours. They've grown up in the fire service, so they don't know any different. So usually it's just a, hey, quick reminder, dad's coming off shift this morning. What can we do to help him? And we kind of have a joke in our house. In the first 24 hours of getting off shift, there's 4 things that pretty much every firefighter needs that'll help them. One is sleep, one is stress, or one is sleep, one is food, one is a workout, and the other one is like, mom and dad need some alone time. So if we can handle, those in that window, it seems to alleviate some of the other triggers that often pop up. So yeah, that's just a practical thing that I've learned to navigate over the years. So it's good that you and your wife
Yeah.
had those conversations as well. Um,
And I think, yeah, I
Go
think
ahead.
that's huge. And because especially in the fire service, we have, everything we do is governed by policies and procedures, and this is the way we've done it. This is the way our culture dictates that we do this. And then in our private and personal lives, we expect those same things to happen.
Hmm.
And, so it's like, if you're a captain or an officer or a chief or whatever, it's, you can have orders that don't get followed. Some are more severe than others, depending on the situation. But we get into that, and to where it's like, okay, if I'm, hey, clean the truck, and they don't clean the truck, well, there's repercussions and stuff, and that really never happens. And we don't realize how spoiled we are a little bit because just all the orders always get followed at
Hmm.
work, and everything kind of, but that's the way we're training, that's the way we're set up, and that's the way it has to be. But then when we do come off duty, we've got to check those things because my 3-year-old is not going to listen, to whatever I have to say, or pick up your toys and stuff. And you get so used to those orders being completed just as you specified them and the time frame that you wanted them specified in, and then you go to that off duty, and it's like, wait a second, what is this circus doing? And why can't I control it? And it's frustrating as as an officer, as a parent, as a father. And so you do it. That's a big struggle for me, is just to unwind, and it's like, what's it gonna matter? So the driveway's muddy. Okay, let's roll on.
Oh, yes. Or lately, I can't find my charger. Who took my charger? Awesome. I love this conversation. Oops, sorry. And I love that, you're sharing your real life with us. I think that's really valuable. Um, we hear about the stress of COVID and all of the extra precautions that you have to take. But I think in times of stress like this, there's always some silver linings that present themselves that normally we wouldn't become aware of. What are some silver linings that you've seen since the onset of this?
I think I'll make a general statement first, and I think that the fire service, for all the years that I've been involved with it, has always amazed me about the community of the fire service and how it comes together. And I think even in times like this that are unprecedented, where we see so much change in the way that we do business and the things that we're having to deal with, that's one thing to deal with in our agency. But then I was really, well, everything was changing and all this new stuff was coming out. I was still amazed because I had crews, here that were like, they knew the restaurants were having a really hard time. So a lot of the stations, we pitch in every shift and do a kitty, and then we go buy our food at the grocery store and stuff. So, but a lot of stations were go ahead and they were calling up local restaurants and
Mm.
saying, hey, we've got 8 guys to feed or 5 guys to feed. Can you put something together for us and we'll come by and buy dinner tonight? And it was just that kind of forethought and worry about the community and about small businesses and how they're suffering and what we can do. So we're struggling to keep up with all the changes and everything else that's going on, and then yet we're still engaged in our community and wanting to do the right thing, and getting out there and doing, it kind of sounded like a birthday drive-by. It's like, what, you know what are we doing? And it's like, well, yeah, let's go drive by a kid's birthday because he's not going to have a birthday, and we'll honk and turn the lights on and stuff like that. It's like, because we could impact somebody else's day in a positive way, or a restaurant, by letting them, serve us some food and stuff like that. So the resilience of the community is it never disappoints. It never
Mm.
disappoints. So that's awesome in that respect. Um, so like I said, that community and within ourselves, I think people were, helping each other out. We didn't have a ton of cases here, and so I mean everybody was in isolation, shut down. I think that was maybe the difference, is the social interaction was a little hard to deal with for a little while. You weren't getting to the training drills, you weren't getting out. It was lock the station down, stay in. No visitors. Don't go out in the community. And I think for us, we are a very social agency. We're
Mm-hmm.
doing a lot. We're very active in the community. And I think I don't know, I think the good thing is that we've been able to reset a little bit, because I think we were so busy with our training schedules, our community risk reduction, you know, parties, whatever we're doing, just the whole host of things that the agency was doing. We pulled all that back in, and it gave everybody kind of a time to reset, to work on some things that they didn't necessarily weren't getting the time to work on, and that maybe had fallen off the plate just because our plate is so full. And I think that's with agencies around the country. I've got companies that they're doing more single engine, drills and just proficiencies and different things because they have the time now to do it. They're not reporting to the training center for this or that. Working on stuff, maybe working on projects around the station. I even did that for myself. It's like, okay, I'm gonna be stuck in the office for a couple of weeks. I'm gonna make some changes. I got to work here, and so do some paint, do some little things like that. But I think also, one instance that happened for me was we take for granted our institutional knowledge in our
Mm.
stations and in our departments. And so one of my main fitness coordinators had a student that was doing a term paper basically in college, and she was studying firefighter fitness. And so he answered a bunch of questions, and then he came to me. He's like, "Hey, she's got some questions about the history and how we evolved." And so I gave her some stuff and emailed and kind of interviewed with her. And he really enjoyed that because he was like, I had no idea that's where it started.
Mm.
And like I said, so his perspective is not quite 10 years on the job. Mine's 22 years on the job. And he's like, I had no idea that you and one other chief officer and our union president were the 3 guys that went down to the academy and started, working out with the recruits as as company officers and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, that's where it all started. And he's like, so it gave him a fresh perspective. And normally I don't think that would have ever came out, and that was lost in just the institutional knowledge. He just knows what we do today, and he doesn't know all the steps that got us to where we're at today. And I think that history is kind of important. And I think the firefighters, even on the engines and the trucks, is have the time now to ask, like, well, why do we do it that way? And they can get that education. They're slowing down for a minute, and maybe the focus, depending on how you're measuring productivity, might be different.
Yeah.
Maybe the numbers are down, but I think the knowledge sharing, the skill is increasing. All those kinds of things have just been tremendous, but in a different way.
I think that's a really good call out, because, even, thinking globally, how the workforce and the average age of the firefighter is starting to transition. We have a lot of baby boomers that are retiring out and a lot of millennials that are coming back in or coming in. And you hit the nail on the head, that institutional knowledge. How does that get passed down? So it sounds like there's just time now for conversations to happen. So I think that's a really awesome aspect. Some silver lining for sure. So hopefully more conversations, or we can encourage other people across departments to have those kinds of conversations to deepen their knowledge. Because I think about, my husband's career, and just in the last 2 years, how many seasoned captains have retired. And just, I distinctly remember the look on his face, like, how are we ever going to replace this person? They know so much about the fire service because they've been here for a long time. So yeah, valuable opportunity to have some of those conversations. I'd love to know a little bit more about what you're personally doing to kind of keep yourself healthy and resilient. I know that, obviously exercise is a big focus of yours, but are there other aspects that you've kind of leaned into amid everything that's going on with you?
It's goofy, but hydration has been huge for me. I think I've been pounding the coffee way too much.
I've
And
got mine
so,
right
like,
here.
here lately, yeah, exactly. I mean, I either have coffee in my hand or I have water in my hand, and the reason is to balance, one or the other. And so, I don't think, like I said, I think it's just a life for me. It's where I'm at in my life, and I have to be happy with, what I'm able to do. And like I said, maybe it's not the hour or two in the gym that I used to get the opportunity to do, but now it's, chasing my kids on their bicycles or whatever the case might be. So it's I guess it's their time and their season, and I'm glad to just be a part and, like I said, do what I can to get what I need out of it a little bit as well. So those have been good things. Like I said, feeling, I feel like I think we all kind of know whether we're doing good or we're not doing good, especially when it comes to nutrition. I think I'm my worst critic, and stuff, and I love the idea to think that I eat healthy. My wife will definitely tell you that. She's like, yeah, oh yeah, you're all talk. It's like, yeah, what was that? Who finished off those fries that the kids didn't get quite eaten? And so it's kind of, do what you can, and every little bit helps, and like that. But we can always do a little bit more, and just those small things that lead to a bigger impact overall. So yeah, stay active, eat, drink some water. That's what I've really been enjoying and doing. And like I said, life's crazy for me at this season, but I know that'll change, before long, as the kids get a little older and like to eat a little bit more than just mac and cheese and burgers and fries and that kind of thing. So I think everybody kind of understands that, and we'll teach them those lessons, those life lessons on how to cook better for themselves once they're a little older and they can start doing that stuff for themselves.
Yeah.
So
just kind of back to those basics, huh?
Yeah, and I think that's I think when it's working out or whether it's nutrition or it doesn't have to be complex. It doesn't
Hmm.
have to be, I mean, so many times, as a trainer, or I'll see some of my other trainers that'll come, it's like somebody comes to him and, I want this program, I need to get on a program, to start losing weight and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, that's great, and let's design a program. And some people need that plan. But it's just like some people just need something that holds them accountable. It's like, hey, all right, let's set a goal and let's not, I'm not going to set what time of day you do it or even, what you're going to do, but just, through a week, you're going to walk for a total of 4 hours.
Mm.
And that there's your program, so it doesn't, and like I said, some people may want something that's very strength based and, so it's just about what are their goals, what are their wants. For me, that's what I want. Water, plenty of sleep, and some R&R when I can get it, and like I said, it'll change a little bit. Maybe I'll worry here in a few more years what my mile run time is again, and
Mm.
different things that I used to be worried and concerned about. And I used to love running my 10Ks, and I wanted to get to that 45-minute 10K, and it's just, yeah, I've done it before, and yeah, maybe one of these days I want to get back to a 55, who knows? And but this isn't the season for that. So I think you can adjust and figure out what works for your life.
That's such great perspective. And it connects in with what I was talking to Dr. Frost about a couple of weeks ago is that transitioning our thought from exercise, which historically sounds very prescriptive, X number of sets, X number of reps per set, this much rest time, and really just thinking about activity. So I love that you called that out. That's really good. And I don't know about you, I'm not a spring chicken, but as I grow and I learn more, recognizing those priorities that I had previously. I'm a former bodybuilding competitor. Never did any endurance thing because that was not my jam, but recognizing that those hard metrics of whether it's a 45-minute 10K or X percent body fat or a deadlift over 300 pounds, whatever it was, it comes at a compromise. And recognizing now what that compromise is, I really evaluate, but is it worth it? Is it really worth it? So yeah, it'd be interesting to see kind of,
I,
go ahead.
and unfortunately, what I've seen, being a trainer, being involved in all this, is that most of those changes, unfortunately, come after injury,
Mm,
where someone has, and that's even me. I mean, I was a pretty avid runner. I really, I counted on that to be able to eat whatever I wanted to when I was younger. I just, I like to run. I like the high intensity stuff, and then I had an injury, and if I run, I pay the price for it now. And so now it's shifted that focus, and that's one of the things that getting people to accept those changes and understand what it is they're doing. That's what I love about Dr. Frost and everything that his program is it's like, really, why am I doing this?
mm,
And is it, can I do it in another way that's not destructive to myself? Or for age and service, and as you can't do what the firefighter on the truck is doing anymore, in a workout, that's okay. Realizing that you can let that slide, that the expectation or the level that you have to perform should still be high, but it may not have to be that high. Or the focus of, okay, that looks really hard and really difficult. Why am I doing that? And is there an easier way that I don't have to, jar my bones and rattle my joints? Yeah, and there is. You just got to be smart about it. You got to educate yourself a little bit about it. And but like I said, so many times, some of my best, um, you know, whatever you want to call it, testimonials to a program is from people that have suffered an injury or
mm.
suffered a life change, and they can't do those things that they used to love to do. And it's getting to people before that happens is a struggle. It's much more difficult because, like I said, post injury, you're much more open to new ideas. But it's usually those aha moments. It's like, yeah, the reason maybe your shoulder is wrecked is because you've done this way for so long, and now let's start working on how you can make it stronger and better and move the way that it's supposed to. So
That's a great
those are
call
huge.
out. Yeah, yeah, super huge because
Yeah.
there's so much learning and a lot of ego checking that happens in that recovery process. So, yeah, great call
Yeah.
out. Um, let's talk a little bit about your role as a battalion chief now. What are some struggles that you've seen pop up with your crews, just in terms of kind of this global bucket of resilience, whether it's exercise or stress or behavioral health or relationships, anything like that, and how are you helping to lead them through that? And I just want to address here. I see Jason replied. Those of you that are on, that are watching with us, this is live. There's Q&A that's open. So feel free to add in the comment section if you have any questions for Alex. We'll make sure that we tackle those at the end. So sorry for that interruption, but yeah, what are you seeing, and what strategies are you kind of using to help guide your crews through some of that stuff?
I think just, making sure that the information that they're getting, like I said, it was ever changing for a while there. Um, making sure that they've got what they need and they're really getting their questions answered is the biggest thing. But a lot of it is, it from your husband. We're problem solvers. So we figure out solutions to things better than most people, and sometimes at a disadvantage because, sometimes people just want us to listen and hear what's going on, and then they're not
That
actually
never
looking for a
happens.
solution. That never happens. Yeah.
No.
But a lot of it is just the change, and I think we adapt really well, and I think that's the way a lot of my crews have looked at this. Is this is a new problem. It's something that we didn't have. For a while we didn't have the right PPE running the calls, so it's like, okay, well, how can we reduce the risk? Well, we can only send, we can put one guy in the house, we can put one guy at the door, we can leave, another guy in the truck, and just, basically treat it as a minor hazmat incident. And so we just adapted to what we did, and I think one of my captains put it best was, he's like, when the alarm sounds, um, I'm really happy if it's a fire call. And he said, I've always been that way, but he goes, because it's less of a pain in the butt just to put my gear on and put my SCBA on my back and go to work. He's like, this is work. He said, this is like a mini hazmat incident. And so it's shifted those priorities for him. And he understands that, now they're masking, gowning in 95, and everything else. So they've adapted to that, and they've just, you know, basically do it the new way. And we'll see how long that runs for with that. And when we did things as administration did things that helped with that, we reduced the call volumes. We only went, we didn't go on difficulty breathing and chest pain anymore. It had to be respiratory or cardiac arrest. So we cut our call volume probably by 50% on the EMS side,
Wow. Yeah, that's a
which
significant drop.
dramatically, which impacted the community, but at the same time, I think from my perspective in the field, it was kind of right in the height of this. We had a really good working building fire, and it was just good working fire. It took a lot of work, a lot of crews doing really hard work for a long period of time, and I thought to myself, I said, you know, if we allowed ourselves to be exposed and to, have people in quarantine and everything else and not take this level of seriousness, we're putting the community in a huge risk and disadvantage. If we lose a third of our workforce,
Mm.
that's a big, big problem. And so, you can say, well, you've let the medical side go and maybe somebody, some harms come from that. You can't just be that narrowly focused. You had to be vigilant all the way around, because at the end of the day, we still have to put the buildings out that are on fire and burning. So we have critical operations all the way around us. For us in the Midwest right now, flooding and concerns like that have been, spring rains and a lot of water and stuff. So we have to still have those operational capabilities. And so by pulling back from the community, from pulling back from those medical responses, ensures that. So I think everybody's done a pretty good job of making those moves, and we'll see how it all shakes out in the end when everything opens back up. But
Yeah, that's
for now, we're
interesting.
doing pretty good.
Yeah, that's an
Yeah.
interesting approach to hear that, because that I experienced this with family. I didn't have any family in the fire service growing up, so when my husband joined the fire service, this was new for my parents and all my side of the family. So even now, 20 years later, still educating them about the types of calls that he responds to. That's the biggest thing for me, is like thinking, and I just want to commend you and your administration for thinking globally about this, because the scope of calls that you guys respond to varies so greatly. And yeah, medicals take up a large volume of it, just because of, people and the communities that you guys respond to. But still being available and prioritizing those other less frequent, but equally, if not more serious incidences. Yeah, that's a great perspective, because I hadn't heard that, and maybe I'm just unaware of it. So thanks for sharing that.
I think that's out there. I mean, I think that's, I can only speak for our agency, but I think that's out there. I think you're community service oriented. I mean, at least our agency is very community service oriented. And so, as a BC on shift, I'm the shift commander basically, with one other BC on duty. And so I think when I promoted into the position years ago, I didn't realize how often that dispatch supervisor would pick up the phone and call my cell phone and go, "Hey, would you guys be able to help?" Type of thing. It's like,
Uh-huh.
and they'll lay out the situation, and yeah, I think people they don't know, and it's when well, this is a problem, we need to do something for somebody about it, but it's not burning, it's not a medical problem, but just, it might be whatever the case might be. And so I think that's the fire service as a whole, and I think a lot of people don't get that. I don't think that gets out there, because the only thing that does is the big building or the house burning, or doing CPR in the middle of somewhere or whatever. That's the stuff that really shows. It's a lot of the little things that nobody else knows that we're out there doing for folks. And at the end of the day, I always told my crews, and when I was mentoring firefighters and other stuff, it's like, define emergency.
Mm.
Because your emergency is different, and I think that's going more to a personal side of it. I think I've had to learn that with young kids, is that my empathy and my reaction to things is not that of a normal parent.
We just had this
It's
conversation. That's so funny.
yeah, it's like, I mean, and not that I'm hard on them. It's just, I'm very, my boys know if they really get hurt, come to dad, and mom is definitely the loving and nurturing kind, and let me see your boo boo, and this and that. But it's like, when their tooth punches through a lip or something like that, it's like, dad, you know can you take care of me? And dad's the doctor, I'll let him pull it out, if there's something stuck in somewhere that shouldn't be.
Oh,
But so it's just those little things that I think we take for granted, of what is normal for us and what a true emergency is. And everybody's out there different. Like I said, to some people, a chirping smoke alarm is an emergency.
hmm.
It's not to me, but to them it could be. So they're everyone's perspective in life and education is different. So you just got to be there and do the right thing.
Yeah, that's a
So
great call. That's so funny. We were just having the conversation with some friends of ours, um, who has older teenage kids, and he's been in the fire service. Oh gosh, I want to say 2 years, 4 years. So his kids knew him before he was a firefighter, and now that he's a firefighter, they were sharing about kind of that shift in empathy. Like, okay, I know you're sick and you have a cold, but you're fine. And it's just because of that exposure to things like this. This is clearly not fine. I encounter this stuff on a regular basis, but you having a cold, you're fine. So that's funny. That's more universal than I think a lot of people recognize. So
it is.
trying to be mindful of your time, because I know, you're obviously on shift right now. From your perspective, your expert knowledge as a master trainer, what are some things, if I imagine that there's people that'll be watching this that are still kind of in the muck of trying to get through this, where they don't feel like they're barely staying above water. What advice would you share with them about, maybe to get them up to a point where it's like, okay, I feel like I'm making progress here. I'm coming out of this.
I think that really, you know, the small victories should be really celebrated.
Mm,
You know, and like I said, if it's a smaller agency or maybe it's not as, you know, full-time department. I mean, we have lots of volunteer departments around us here, around the metro area, and so it's really doing the best you can with what you have. And I think, like I said, I think the fire service in general is great at that. You know, you may not have the newest, best equipment and stuff, but you still get the job done, you know, with whatever it is you're handed. So I think you have to check that personally too, and you know, do what you can when you can, you know, and celebrate the small victories. You know, if you can educate someone else, you know, and you know, quail their concerns, that's a win. You know, if you can make somebody, even the general public, feel more at ease with what's going on, then you know that's a win for you. You know, be professional at all times. I think that's really the, you know, the calm, is again another thing we take for granted. Is I think even looking out there, I just kind of took for granted that people understood BSI and, you know, body substance isolation and those kinds of things. But as you walk around and you get out and about, you're like, people really don't understand how this works and what it is,
nope.
and even social distancing. You know, it's like, yeah, we haven't really done a good job of explaining this. You know, so those are even small victories and stuff like that. You know, and things that we take for granted on how to remove gloves, how to wear a mask, how not to cross. So maybe you can't make those big impacts in your agencies and you're not rewriting policy, um, but maybe it's teaching somebody in the community how they can do those kinds of things. And that puts more value on I think we undervalue our knowledge and our experience in those areas that can be really, really beneficial for that. You know, I thought about it even with my church. You know, it's like, you know, it'd be good to just put out a thing on our Facebook page. You know, it's like, here's something that you can do, you know, how transmission of something, you know, can occur, and how you can not shake hands, and how you can cover, you know, just all those things that we've seen out there. But sometimes that makes a really big impact within our sphere, to help people. So,
That's awesome. Yeah, that's a really good call because I think even just people knowing that you are a firefighter automatically lends an immense amount of trust to any advice or any teaching that you would provide in that realm,
mhm.
because like, oh, this person knows this person does this on a regular basis. I don't know what I'm doing, so I'm just going to trust what they say. So I think that's awesome, just putting yourself out there. And you know, we know there's lots of goodness when you give to others, when you show up in service of others. You know, there's a lot that we get in return, but also finding that balance, because your job when you're on duty is to be in service. So yeah, making sure that there's that healthy balance of taking care of yourself, like you said, get some R&R, you know, check yourself, but then also showing up when you can, when the opportunity presents itself to serve others. So thank you, Alex.
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed this chat with you. It's been awesome. I imagine that if you were in Idaho, I would go out for a drink with your wife and we could talk for hours. So um,
That's,
I'm sure she's a wonderful lady.
yeah, she is. I appreciate it. Yeah, like I said, it's great, and that's what I love about the fire service. And like I said, I've been very blessed to have been in positions and, like I said, done what I've been able to do in my agency to further that with the IAFF, you know, and be a PFT instructor and everything like that. I think that's always, um, a big win when you can get out there and impact other people and different things. And like I said, even teaching and traveling for them has been interesting, you know, because I'll talk with people at after class or whatever the case might be, and it's like, you know, what do you guys do here? How do you do all this? And you know, it's always understanding, I think, that we didn't just get where we are today yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, it took a long period of time. And they're like, you know, I mean, I remember one lady in Colorado Springs that, you know, oh, we'd love to do what you guys are doing. You know, she's like, I don't know how I'm going to get this done. They only give me $50,000 budget to do it. And I just looked at her and she's like, how big is your budget to do all that? And I went, and she was like, oh, and I said, yeah, so you should be able to do some really great things. So that
Yes.
comes back to that perspective thing. And like I said, do what you can on a personal level, on a crew level, and hopefully, you know, if you're doing the right things on a department-wide level and even on a national level. It's great when you can just be out there and helping folks.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, just one small thing that you can do today to get things moving in the right direction. That's awesome. So Alex,
Yeah.
if people in this group wanted to connect with you or just bend your ear a little bit, how can they get in touch with you? Would be the best way for them?
You can find me through this group. This is a great resource here that we've got. Also, firefighter health and fitness programs. We have our own Facebook page. It's not branded with our agency, but it's just basically a group of us that monitor it. And like I said, you can search on Facebook, and it's just an open group to the public. And we post workouts, we post videos, movement stuff, just whatever it relates to, behavioral health stuff. Just more resources that we pump out. And like I said, we open that up to anybody in our department or outside our department that can do that. We've also got internal stuff that's just to the city, but yeah, they can find me there, or they can find me. I'm pretty easy to find out there. So like I
Awesome.
said, shoot me an email or a message through the group, and I'll be glad to help out anybody that I can.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time today. I've really enjoyed this. I appreciate your perspective, not just, your expertise in fitness, but just also your perspective on the lines, having, lived a 22 years in the fire service. So thank you again. I hope you
appreciate
guys
it.
will join us next week. We are actually going to continue these interviews. We had this scheduled through the month of May. Obviously, we're towards the end of May, but they've been such a big hit that we want to continue these. So we'll continue to bring additional guests on. Some of them will be firefighters from the line, their perspective, and others will be experts in their own realm in relation to firefighter resilience. So stay tuned for more about that stuff. And Alex, I hope you have a safe rest of your shift. Thanks again for today.
Thanks a lot, Lisa. Appreciate it. Thanks
All
for
right.
everything you're doing for the group.
My pleasure. Take care.
All right. Yeah. Bye-bye.